Hello and welcome back everyone to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts playing as the Japanese Empire, and today we continue on with our conquest of Asia, and it's one could say it's going pretty well. Um, Unfortunately we haven't been able to take Manchuria yet, which Manchuria would be a great asset to have. It's a very valuable province. Same thing with Northeast China, Eastern China, Mongolia, Northern China, Central China, Tibet, Xinjiang. You get what I'm saying here. I would love to take over China. Now, I would like to inform you guys, now that I'm outside the weird little arbitrary bullshit limit that they try to put for cussing and whatnot, I fucking hate it. Yeah, I almost fucked up royally. So I am actually recording this at 11:15 p.m. on Sunday. Yeah, this is Monday's video. I don't even have the I don't even have the fucking I don't even have the fucking thumbnail yet. I did send the stuff over for the thumbnail earlier, either last night or this morning, like first thing this morning. But I definitely messed up a little bit. So what do we got going on in this one? So we're going to be talking about the 8.8 program. This is very similar to that of the 6.6 program. You know, the 6.6 program was born out of the necessities and the clear view that the first Sino-Japanese War was nearly lost just due to the Janakal. And there were some very interesting arguments that can be made given the context of the time that, yes, it was by the seat of their pants. Now, what we now know historically, with all the information that we've been able to put together and really get a broader picture, we now know that it wasn't nearly as close as the Japanese at the time might have thought. But the 6.6 plan definitely brought the Japanese Navy into heavier tonnage ships, which allowed them to have a lot more staying power within their navy, which then this would eventually culminate in the Russo-Japanese War, which would then lead them to be the dominant power in the Pacific at the time, at least in the case of the Asian Pacific. And so the 6.6 plan, it was good, and they decided going in after the Russo-Japanese War, so this is the aftermath, the implementation of the 8.8 plan. So basically the whole concept was they were expanding the 6.6 plan to be 8 battleships, and this time 8 battle cruisers. It was no longer armored cruisers that they were going to be pairing up with their battleships. It was going to be battle cruisers. Now, we do see the examples of this with the Tsubuka and the Ibuki class. These larger, effectively armored cruisers being the beginning of Japanese battlecruiser development. In our case, they're slightly bigger than the Tsubuka and the Ibuki, and they're a little faster, but they have the same effective armament and so on and so forth. But in our context, these ships are going to be great little just merchant raiders. They're going to be fantastic. Eventually, they will be replaced. Eventually, when we get to that point. But these are what those ships would start to fill. Now, mind you, the 8.8 plan, due to the semi-dreadnoughts and dreadnoughts coming into vogue at this point in time, and everything kind of shifting in 1904, 1905, with the shift in technology at that point in time, there's a lot of big battleships or dreadnought battleships that need to be built at this point in time. So yeah, that's why, like, for example, right now we're building the Satsuma, which would have been built soon after the Russo-Japanese War. The Katoris would have basically finished as the war was finishing, and then the Satsumas would come into play soon after that, laying the groundwork for eventually the Kawachi. Now, in our case, we're able to do things a little more flippantly than the Japanese did during this time period, because of budgetary constraints and everything that they were under. Um, we don't really have to worry about budgets. Um, this game is really not cool um, for for that. Now, one of the big things about the 8-8 plan was the adoption of foreign hulls into the regimen of the Japanese Navy. Now, this had kind of been what built the Japanese Navy originally, as we showed in the early years in the lead up to what the IJN would eventually coalesce around, to the Jean Call era, to the aftermath of that era, and just going forward, foreign built hulls had been what built the Japanese Navy because, for example, the Mikasa herself was a foreign ship. And speaking of the Mikasa, or, well, in this case, the Fujis, we're going to go ahead and we're going to scrap the Fujis. Simply because we don't need them anymore. The Shikishimas and the Mikasas, they're still relevant to this time period. And the Kotoris and the Satsumas, as they come online, those will be our 8 battleships. The Ibukis, or the Tsukubas and the Ibukis would go on to be the first set of battle cruisers that were developed, eventually being reclassified as armored cruisers. And then a foreign hull that would go on to kind of make a pretty decent name for themselves. That being the Congo, the let me see if I can actually so you had the Congo, the Hiei, the oh man, come on, I can do this. Congo, Hiei. I always get held up on the other two. Hold on. I gotta actually look at it. So we had the Congo, the Hiei, the Kirishima, and the Haruna. Yeah, I always get held up on this. Mind you, I am a big fan of Blue Steel and a few other naval-oriented animes, so I should be able to remember this. But anyways, the point is the Congo kind of set a precedent for it set the precedent for these very fast, heavily armed battle cruisers being present within the Japanese Navy. And then that kind of heavily influenced the Japanese, even in their battleship design. Put the biggest possible fucking guns on something and let it kill just everything. That was kind of where the Japanese mind went when it came to their ship design. And the battle cruisers, because of their relative lack of armor due to the need for speed, the figure was give them the biggest guns that they can possibly carry to be able to kill whatever's trying to kill them and chasing them. They can outrun everything in this time period, so give them the guns to kill whatever's chasing. That was kind of the mindset. Now, the real problem again with the 8-8 plan was the financial constraints. It was the fact that the Japanese government and the country as a whole just could not muster that. And actually, we can get rid of this hull. They could not muster the economic ability to truly push forward with things when it came down to it. So it was one of those very, very real problems that they had to contend with when developing their fleet. And the Congos served a basis for something that could last for a very long time, as evidenced by their not real use in World War One. They weren't. I don't believe any of the Japanese naval assets beyond the siege of Tsingtao were really used. They were used in the Mediterranean. Like, for example, Japanese ships were very present in the Mediterranean, escorting convoys and stuff like that. But they really didn't get to fire their guns in anger because there wasn't really a place for them in the war. Mind you, Italy would later come into the war in a later time period and be forced into the guns of Austria. And let me tell you this for nothing, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason why. Well, okay, if you're facing 1.8 million Austrians with only 604,000 Italians, that's a problem. But this right here, this region is very daunting for war. There's a reason why the Italian peninsula has been very hard to invade for a lot of country, or for a lot of peoples, for ages. And again, there wasn't really a place for the Japanese. Like, I know they played a little bit down here in the German colonies. Again, you had Tsingtao, which apparently the Chinese now have Tsingtao, which I can go take that from them. And again, they patrolled in the Mediterranean, did escort duty. There really wasn't anywhere for them to really participate in the war, unless possibly they went in and started messing with the Ottomans. But again, deploying army forces this far away from home, that's a big ask. Like, that's a really big ask for a nation like Japan at in this time period. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. With our construction and everything, we're trying to just push forward as quickly as we can, trying to get this stuff built up. I've got the tech budget back up in order to compensate for our tech crisis that we're having right now, because we are like on the cusp of being behind on tech. So we do need to fix that. We're trying to push to 14-inch guns as fast as possible so that we can give the Congos their proper armament. Also, us trying to get prepped to be able to build the Kawachis. The Kawachis, let me just kind of find those real quick. No, Spain. Sorry, fuck off. So the Kawachi, 22,000, or effectively 22,000 ton dreadnought battleship, running at a speed of 21 knots, with a blistering fucking armament of 6 twin 12-inch by 45 caliber main batteries. She was the first proper all big gun dreadnought that the Japanese would build. The Kawachi actually, it was a transitional warship as well, in regards to the fact that the Kawachi was it represented a transition from when Japan relied heavily on foreign imports and assets to when they didn't. With the Satsumas, for example, they relied very heavily on British-made goods to produce the ships, whereas with the Kawachis, they relied very little on it. So the Kawachi was kind of a symbolic transition for the Japanese, and represented a very definitive change for them when it came to their overall sense of, hey, we're doing this. We're getting through this. Like, this is a big deal for us. And again, being an all big gun battleship presented a very notable power spike. Because, again, the Satsuma was actually supposed to be the first proper dreadnought, and was actually slated, time-wise, to beat the HMS Dreadnought herself to completion. Um, Unfortunately, because of issues regarding uh, the budget and the availability of materials, they had to utilize the same 10-inch guns from the Katori, which was the semi-dreadnought that was produced prior to the Satsuma. They had to use the same 10-inch guns that were made up the main battery. So you had the two twin 12-inch batteries, and then you had the four single 10-inch batteries of the Katori, and then the Satsuma doubled up the 10-inch guns because they were like, well, shit, we don't have the ability, we don't have the money, and we don't have the ability to produce the 12-inch gun barrels at this moment. Let's just throw the 10-inch barrels that we already have on it, and let's just call it a day. Yeah, it kind of sucks not to have a bunch of 12-inch guns on this, but we kind of just got to do what we got to do. And it led to, again, the first proper dreadnought going to the British, which is not something that I think a lot of people truly actually encapsulate properly. A lot of people might sit there and think like, oh, it doesn't matter. Eventually they got there, but it's the prestige factor. Most people don't think about prestige properly, because it's either seen as, this omnipresent thing that if you disregard it completely, then you're absolutely dooming yourself, or it's seen as this thing that if you focus on it whatsoever, you're just wasting your time. There's these two extremes when it comes to the concept of prestige. Whereas as a nation, having certain things that you're able to do first, that you're able to do well, it comes with some definitive bonuses. For example, I'll actually give an example in regards to the United States. The United States does aircraft very well. Actually, the United States, for the longest time, was the only nation that could do aircraft properly. If we look at World War One, for example, of course, the French, the British, the Germans, they were the ones that were truly pushing the fold when it came to aircraft development, and the Germans eventually, I believe it was the Fokker D13 or something like that. I don't remember what the aircraft was, but it was the first all aluminum biplane to be deployed in the war, and it set the precedent for aircraft development from there. And the U.S. was kind of behind in the game, but the U.S., after getting involved in the war and utilizing British planes and French planes, and then eventually being able to get a look at some German planes, they were like, oh, okay, we really got to focus on this. And the Americans, as a nation, have this one thing that a lot of people kind of underestimate. When we realize we need to focus on shit, we focus, and it's borderline autistic the way we focus on it. like there is a tism that runs through this nation, and it's freaking fantastic. And again, when we focus, we take the lead on everything. And that's exactly what happened with aircraft development. A lot of people might not realize this, but a lot of the development that was going on in Europe at the time when World War II rolled around, a lot of that development was spurred on by watching what the Americans were doing, because the Americans themselves, mind you, it's aircraft. The aircraft era was like the development of aircraft era, like the early era. That was an interesting time. That was a very interesting time indeed, and a lot of people they underestimate how much of an importance it played, because eventually when, like, for example, I'll use the what was the name of that plane? The F-2A Buffalo. That's what it was. The F-2A Buffalo. You look at the Buffalo as an aircraft, and then also the P-36. These two aircraft represented something that the other nations of Europe were trying to get ahead of. First off, the F-2A Buffalo being, frankly speaking, the premier carrier aircraft of the period. There wasn't another nation that was using. Okay, let me stop there. The Brits had started. I'll give the Brits some credit, and the Japanese they had been pushing the fold in the early 30s. But there wasn't a nation that was widely using monoplanes for carriers at this point in time. And mind you, the carrier was relatively new. It wasn't really new at this point in time. A lot of people actually don't realize this. World War One is when carriers became a thing, like as an actual concept. And it was even prior to World War One. Really, it was like, honestly speaking, there were kind of examples of it in the Russo-Japanese War. So 1905. But the point is that you're talking this concept that nobody else had really pursued to the degree that the Americans did. And the Americans had a dedicated carrier aircraft that, by all regards, wasn't that bad. Like, versus the Zero, yes, the Buffalo sucked. Like, but a lot of planes of that time period sucked against the Zero. Look at what happened with the Fubuki. The Fubuki set a standard for destroyers for years to come. And everybody emulated the Fubuki. The same thing happened with the Buffalo. Everybody wanted to emulate the Buffalo because it was like, okay, this thing has capabilities, and the Americans are mass producing them. Now, is it like, oh, they built 10,000 of them? No. But it's the first mass-produced carrier monoplane that the Americans are using. That's good. And most other nations don't have this. Another thing to take into account is the introduction of the F3F Wildcat. I believe it would be the F3F. Sorry, trying to remember these designations. Sometimes I can remember the names like Buffalo, Wildcat, Hellcat, etc. I can remember that, but trying to remember the designations is hard at times. But with the Wildcat proceeded to set an even higher standard, and it built off the lineage of the Buffalo. And the Buffalo being a perfectly good aircraft, the Wildcat being a perfectly good aircraft, and then you get the Hellcat. And there's literally nothing on the planet that at that point in time that could compete with the Hellcat. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. Not even close. Not even thinking, oh, hey, this one plane, if it had been produced in wide enough numbers, it could. No, there wasn't a single plane in the air at that time that could compete with the Wildcat or with the Hellcat. There just wasn't. And then the U.S. decided to up the ante again by introducing the Corsair, which... Have you seen a Corsair flying? Let me ask you that question. Have you seen a Corsair flying? Have you been to an air show and they have a Corsair as part of the air show? You listen to it come down towards you. You understand really fucking quickly, oh dear fucking God, I would not have wanted to be on Iwo Jima having those things strafing my position. Just saying. The Corsair was fucking brilliant. Now, unfortunately, the lineage then kind of gets a little weird because then we have the introduction of the Bearcat soon after. Basically, the war ends as the Bearcat's coming into service, and so the Bearcat kind of, it sees some limited action, some limited field testing, but it doesn't really get to sink its sink its teeth in. It wouldn't be until Korea that the Bearcat really gets to play at all, but it really didn't get to play. Unfortunately, it was a product of the time at that point in time. But the thing that most people realized afterwards is the Bearcat was really fucking good. And the Bearcat the F-8F Bearcat was probably one of the most premier prop planes of its era. The only thing that I would probably say that could beat it, and I apologize, I don't remember, is it... the Chief. I just call it the Chief. I don't remember its designation off the top of my head. But the big old prop plane carrying fucking 20,000 pounds of fucking bombs. It's not really that much. I forget how much it can carry, but it can carry a fucking lot. But the motherfucker, the prop plane that they flew in fucking Vietnam that just absolutely fucking just made people like the blue one. The blue one is the little Sky Trainer. What was that called? Oh crap, I don't remember. But it was the little Sky Trainer jet fighter that flew too it flew too slow, that it actually, the enemy would overcompensate leading it because it was so slow. But it screamed like like a screaming Mimi. I forget the name of that plane off the top of my head. That's the one that they called the blue one. But yeah, no. This era, like, and how this all plays together is, you know, when you're looking at the Japanese with like the Congos set a precedent for what the Japanese expected of their ships. The same thing happens with the Americans. The same thing happens with the Brits. The Brits, unfortunately for them, and I really don't think the British really fucking appreciate this, and it's because of how they view us politically and a few other things like that. Mind you, I am not gonna sum it up this way. If you live in this part of the world right here, I probably don't have anything good to say about you, to be completely frank. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be sincere and upfront. I probably don't have anything good to say about you. You kind of get a pass if you're from here. You kind of get a pass. Even up here doesn't get a pass anymore. And over here is just weird. But you kind of get a pass if you're from here. But if you're from here, or if you're from here, or if you're from here, oh no, I have nothing good to say about you, and I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut, because if I do open my mouth, if I do say what I feel about those three, yeah, it's not good. But the point is that, you know, the Brits should be counting their lucky fucking stars, because had the Americans not got involved in World War I and ended the war, because, mind you, the rush of fresh manpower to the front is what they needed. Let's just put it this way. The Battle of Jutland, combined with the failure at Gallipoli, absolutely eviscerated the British when it came to their naval power. Like, the number of ships that they lost to naval mines in Gallipoli was atrocious. It was some of the most retarded shit ever. You do not attempt, after losing that many ships, like, let me just kind of set it up this way. You do not attempt to land here after losing that many goddamn fucking sorry, I need to back up. I'm getting ahead a little bit. You do not attempt to land at a place where your mine layers get blown the fuck up by artillery and can't get in and clear the mines, and then proceed to lose a shit ton of fucking ships, including multiple battleships, by the way, against said mines. And then having to admit when the Gallipoli campaign fails, and then you have to pull back anyways. That's just poor fucking planning on your part, bud. And the same thing can be said about Jutland. The Battle of Jutland was an absolute shit show. It was tactically one of the most disastrous fucking things. The only reason why it didn't make the British suffer more on the strategic level is because the Germans had less ships. Mind you, the Germans gave it just as much as they took it. The only thing that saved the Brits with Jutland is the fact that they had more ships. So, unfortunately, yeah. And then, of course, Versailles and all that bullshit. There's any number of things you can say about Versailles. But we're not going to get into that, We'll save that for the German campaign. I'll get into Versailles on that one. Mind you, being an American, I don't view Versailles very kindly because of what the Brits did. But, that's also because the Brits fucked us over, as hard as they did. I'll leave that for the German campaign, and maybe I'll talk about the way that the Brits fucked us over in a second American campaign. So, anyways, let's go ahead and get in here. I want to try to get I want to try to get these ships going as soon as possible. Now, mind you, you might be wondering, hey, why am I not utilizing all of my building capacity? I'm trying to not spend as much money. It's literally, we're trying to avoid spending the money. That's all it is. We're just trying to keep it slow, keep it steady, and not get screwed over. We're also in a position where we need to start considering some things. Like 1911, we have the construction of the Chukumas. So we definitely need to start pushing towards that because I need a 5,000-ton cruiser at 26 knots. So yeah, we gotta try to get there. And we're also waiting for the 14-inch guns before we build the Congos. And we kind of need... I'm very much not wanting to get rid of the Chiodas, but I think the Chiodas need to go. In my opinion, I think the Chiodas are just too old at this point in time. I think they've reached the end of their service life, or they're starting to reach the end of their service life. The Sumas are a little better off simply because they're a little faster. They have a little more armament on them. But the Chiodas, I think, are starting to kind of reach the end of their cycle. We haven't done a refit on them in 10 years. And I don't think there's a reason to do a refit on them. I just really don't. The Sumas, we can kind of keep going for a little bit longer, but I probably won't do a refit on them. I think I'll just keep them as they are. I don't think there's a reason to do anything. Now, in the case of the Natakas, let's sort this by class. In the case of the Natakas and like the Kasagis here, the Kasagis are basically the Sumas, just a little more supercharged. The Natakas are a little bit on the bigger side, but do I really want to build any more of these? Not really. I'd much rather build more Kasagis. But the problem with the Kasagi is that, I want a more uniform. That's my thing, is I want a more uniform armament. That's kind of the thing. Is I want bigger cruisers. I want a cruiser that has that more uniform armament, and that's why I really want the Chikuma. I think the Chikuma would be a great ship to get a hold of, and then its successor, the Tenryu, even more. Actually, real quick, let me pull up a picture of the Chikuma so I can confirm something real quick. Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. Yeah, she has... the Chikuma has, in fact, 4 smokestacks. I couldn't remember if she had 4 or 3. So I just wanted to pull up a picture of her and just confirm real quick. So we're about to get Mark III 13-inch guns, which means we'll start working on Mark 1 14-inch guns, which, perfect. Perfect. Also, let's go ahead and start working towards some of these as well. I want to get the engine upgrade going. Also, let's make sure we're still building. We're taking forever to get this back up. We lost so many transports in that war. Just so many fucking losses. Alright. Fleet-wise, the Satsumas. So the first two Ibukis are commissioning. And then we can go ahead and queue the next two up. And the Satsumas are coming online here very soon, which this will give us our first two battle cruisers. Now, in terms of the roster, now I know I'm not using the roster of the Japanese at this point in time as a guide, but in terms of the roster, basically there's no increase of heavy cruisers or armored cruisers of any kind until the end of World War II, and they start going into the 20s. In 1922 is when the Furutakas come into existence. So we have a while before we are building any more armored cruisers of any kind or heavy cruisers of any kind. The next cruisers that we're building are all light cruisers. So we have the 4 Chikumas, the 8 Tenryus, the 5 Kumas, the 6 Nagaras, and then when we go to build the Furutakas, we're building 8 Sendai class. But then after that, it's, it inverses or inverts. We have the Furutaka, the Aoba, the Alba, my bad. The Alba, the Miyoko, the Takao, waifu, Megami, and the Tone class, which the Tone class we're actually going to be changing up on this playthrough. I believe the Tone class, if I remember correctly, that's one of the cruisers, heavy cruisers, that was also converted to be a hybrid carrier. So we'll be playing with that one. I believe the Oyoto was also one of those. But yeah, then of course, then you have the Yubari, which the Yubari then breaks the mold for light cruiser design it breaks cruiser design molds for the Japanese as a whole, because the Yubari is then also plays a role into the Furutakas and then the Aganos after that as well, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of the Yubari is a very important ship, and we will be building her. She will be built I love her to death. I don't know why I have such a fascination with that weird little ship. I can't tell you. I don't know. Don't ask. Don't ask, don't tell. You get it? You got it? It's just the rule. I don't make the rules. I just work here. Alliance broke between Empire, Japan, and France. That's fine. They are currently in a war that we are not involved in, so they're just not. Yeah, that's to be expected. So these bad boys are going to be commissioning here soon. Real quick, I actually need to do a battleship check. I believe it's 1912 when the Fuso, which the Fuso and the Issei, if I remember correctly, are relatively similar designs, but then you get the big boy herself, the Nagato, which... Hey, Nagato. No, I don't care who you are. Nagato is the best ship ever. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care who you have to tell. Nagato. No, I am a super fan. I don't know why the Nagato appeals to me as a ship. Like, aesthetically, I do not understand why it appeals to me so much, but it just does. And it's amazing, and I love it. So, love her to death. Love her to death. So, let's go ahead and roll the turn. Let's get this Let's get those 2 ships commissioned. So, we're officially back up to our 8 battleships. Again, our last 2 battle cruisers. We'll start working on the Congos. I did get a comment from one of you guys saying that, hey, yes, we will build that for you. Hey, the BC1 isn't really the Congo. It's the BC2 is the hull for the Congo. So I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to assume that that individual was telling the truth. Ooh, Light Cruiser 1 is obsolete. Semi-Armor Cruiser 1 is obsolete. Okay, well, we'll have to check that out. Actually, do we have any new Light Cruiser hulls? We do have Light Cruiser 3. She doesn't really fit the mold, though. It's kind of a problem. So real quick, let's actually do a bit of a test here. So the Tenryu, or the Chikuma, my bad. So if I remember correctly, the Chikuma. Well, actually, let me see if I can get a. Let me see if I can get a picture of her. Let me see if I can get just a quick picture. All right, and okay. So actually, this hull would actually work pretty well for the Chikuma. She would actually work pretty damn well. Interesting. I figured the Chikuma was more of a legacy design, but it really isn't actually. This actually fits the Chikuma really well. So actually, let's look at our numbers real quick. Let's see what we can do with her real quick. Let's see how far off do we have to get with building the Chikuma. So the Chikuma has a bit of a weird layout. So let's go ahead and build her out real quick. So she's got a bit of a weird layout. So she's armed with 8 6-inch guns. So she's got her forward gun, she's got her rear guns, and then she's got some wing turrets here. So let's see what we can do with her. Just turn that so it doesn't look as funny. All right, so that is 8. Wait, okay, so hold on. Let me see if I can figure out a better look of her. Apparently there was another ship named Chikuma that was a heavy cruiser, and that's what's mainly showing. So hold on. Oh, God. And I just had to uninstall. Hold on. World of Warships, IJN Chikuma. I just had to uninstall World of Warships. Okay, so... okay, so she's got a somewhat asymmetric main battery. So her main battery actually goes something like this. So she's got a slightly asymmetric main battery. Yeah, she's got a somewhat asymmetric main battery like this, where these guns are a little more forward. Unfortunately, we're going to have to max her out for the sake of the hull. Unfortunately, we're not really going to be able to do that. Oh, okay, wait, these need to come forward a little bit. Ooh. See if we can do that. Doesn't truly represent her her layout well, but it is what it is. And then of course she has her small secondary battery of 3-inch guns, which are I'm just gonna place them basically anywhere I can, really. Might not even end up placing them, to be honest. Or hell, we can do something like this, where we just have funny little secondary battery like that. Can't put any casement guns, but you know what? It works. We'll just leave it like that. But yeah, so, and then a speed of 26 knots. So, what's the max range? 29.5. So quite a bit slower, but it's going to give her a bit of extra range. Let's go ahead and check the armor. So 322, really can't get the belt much higher than that. 2-inch deck. We'll just assume across the board. Tower of 4, 4, 4, 2. Now, what happens when we do this? Tech her out a little bit. At this point in time, we'll actually go base fuse on that. Don't think she had any mines, so I'm not gonna put mines on her. And then, there's the armor for the guns. Oh, and she also had torpedoes. We'll go ahead and do something like that. Take that off. Okay, well, she's a competent little cruiser. So we could kind of make her work. Not even close to her weight class. But we could potentially make her work. We could potentially. Looks a little dorky with the guns hanging off like that, but it is what it is. And honestly, this would be kind of terrifying to go up against, to be honest. Be kind of terrifying, because that's a lot of 6-inch guns that are just pointed at you. But yeah, so that might be something we do for the Chikuma, maybe, just maybe. We're gonna leave it for right now. I'm not gonna. Actually, you know what? We'll save it. We'll save it for right now. See if we see if we end up using her. Now I know some of you might be making comments like, hey, you didn't do anything with the guns or whatever. I'm not going to do anything with the guns for right now. It's just not worth it. Now, mind you, this would be actually one of the last cruisers to utilize 6-inch guns on for the Japanese for a while. Eventually, they would switch to their signature 5.5-inch guns with the Tenryo, which the Tenryo, I'm curious to know how to do the Tenryo, because if I remember correctly, the Tenryo was kind of a slight legacy design. Oh, no, she wasn't. What am I thinking of? I don't remember which one I'm thinking of. One of them was. But the Tenryu would actually go on to be probably one of the most... It's either the Tenryu or the Kuma would go on to be a relatively famous class. I believe it was the Tenryu. I could be wrong there. I don't know the specifics of certain classes quite as well as I wish I did. But what can you do? I know. Everybody just squealed. You could read more. Yeah, okay. I wish I had the time for that. Like, if I could do, like, honestly speaking, if I could do the numbers with YouTube, already said I wouldn't do this anyways because I love my job as is. I love protective services. But if I could do the numbers on YouTube necessary to be able to... Oh, of course we get 6. Damn it! We make that haul, and then instantly unlock the. Damn it! We do this, and then we instantly get Mark II 6-inch guns. Just my luck. But if I could do the numbers to be able to sit and do like deep dive research, like just absolute bedlam amounts of research, and just absolutely go just full tism on all this stuff, I would love it. But at the same time, I would go freaking insane. So let us... Oh god. Oh, I apologize. It is getting late, so I have to keep that in mind. We're almost done recovering the Merchant Marine, thank God. The game is telling me, build better shit, and it's like, I can't. I'm sorry. I really don't want to piss off the Soviets because I really don't want to fight them again. I'm cool fighting the Chinese again, but I don't want to fight the Soviets again because it's going to be a land war. Like, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do against the Soviets at this point in time other than a land war. Which, hey, you know what? Taking Siberian Russia from the Russians would be absolutely amazing. I've already taken the other shit. I've landlocked them away from the Pacific. Taking Siberian Russia would just be icing on the cake at this point in time. So, I guess I would like to go to war with them. You know, wouldn't be a bad thing. Oh my God, he's saying war wouldn't be a bad thing. Shut the fuck up. There are people out there like that. Like I have had a friend of mine make a comment to me one time because of one of the jokes I made on a video. She just happened to watch this one video, the one video where I make a really raunchy fucking joke. And I don't even remember what the fucking joke was. This was like 6 months ago at this point. But I made a joke, and she was like, oh my God, how can you be so insensitive to X group? And I looked at her, and I kind of laughed. And I'm like, in the context of the game, I don't give a fuck. In the context of the game, I'm going to fucking kill everybody. Nobody survives. Nobody gets to have anything nice. Like, I'm sorry that you're stupid. Ooh, 4x centerline gun. Oh, hello. I wonder what I'm going to use that for, eh? Wonder what I'm going to use that for. So actually, I do need to confirm something. Don't remember. Yes. Oh, Jesus. Holy shit. I forgot. I forgot how many guns she had. Holy shit. I forgot how many fucking guns she had. If you're curious on what I'm referring to the IJN Fuso. I was actually looking real quick. I'm like, I don't remember if she had 5 guns or 4 guns or 5 guns. I was pretty sure she had 5 guns. But no, she has fucking 6 guns or 6 turrets, 6 batteries. Oh man, it's so nice seeing those. Like, it's actually why I love the USS Texas so much, is because of the just ridiculous batteries on it. Like, it's just like, oh my god, why do you have so many guns? It's like, what? Oh, why? Why? What is the purpose? And it's because fuck you and your shore fortifications. That's why. Actually, real quick, our naval training, our crew training is fine for right now. We got enough people. So we're starting to get towards 1908. And we are starting to get closer and closer to that 1914 date. We have several ships that we do need to start putting into consideration. The big one in the current is the IJN Kawachi, which we will go ahead and start up in January of 1908. We'll go ahead and start designing and building her, and then we will go ahead and do I want to bother with this? No, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'm gonna eat that because I just don't want to mess with relations right now. We're trying to. I think in the next episode, let's go ahead and run a few turns real quick. Let's get to a good stopping point, which a good stopping point would be the turn of the year. But I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to poke the dragon again. I think I'm going to poke the dragon. I'm thinking I'm going to try to steal some of their inland territory. Oh, the Chinese and the Brits are at war. Interesting. What's going on over here, guys? Are you having fun without me? I would like Bhutan. Gosh. Why can't I have Bhutan, Britain? Why can't I have it? I don't understand. Let's go ahead and shift this down now. Then we can shift this back up. We'll go to 40. Still 12 million in the hole. It's like, oof. All right, and then yeah, let's just push it. Let's just push it to 1908 real quick. And then we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. I do apologize for the shorter video, but again, I fucked up. Fucked up real bad. If you guys must know, 7 Days to Die is getting 1.0 officially released this Thursday. It's going to be a great time. I will be putting out a separate video on Tuesday in regards to that, with a quick announcement and a few other things like that. So we will be getting into that on the co-op side of things. It won't be a main channel series, or it won't be a main series on the channel. It will be part of the Sunday co-op stuff. But we will be having fun with it. Because it's a really fun game. It went through several periods of stagnation and several times where it was so unbalanced, it was unreal. But I can say with confidence right now, this is probably the most fun the game has ever been, and I think it would just be a great experience for everybody. Like, if you haven't played, yes, I will go ahead and do that. And there's our 14-inch guns. Awesome. So we've reached that point. Nice. We can go ahead and turn that off. We can focus on armor quality, get that Krupp 2 going. Turret mechanisms. What do we got going on here? Naval guns 2. So not quite to advanced twin turrets. We have improved twin turrets. I would really like to get enhanced twin turrets, or advanced twin turrets, so we can get the max bonus for twin batteries as we can. Anything else I need to take into consideration? Oh yeah. There's about a 50-50 chance we're about to be at war. And how dare you touch my territory? Excuse me, Britain. Excuse me. It really sucks because I am limiting myself. I can't take British territory. I can't infringe on the Brits until after the World War I era. But I really want to infringe on the British. Yes, lose all your transports. Okay, so 50-50, we managed to not be at war. I'm thinking we are just going to poke the dragon in the next episode. So anyways, guys, I love you all. Please make sure to go ahead and check the Discord out. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe on the video. I love you all. Have a good one. I'm sorry for being a fuck up.